This is B2B Sales Buzz with Boxamanis, and I am your hostess, Jennifer Boxamanis. Today's sales tip comes from Milos Kovacevic. He is a director and founder of IGH Real Estate agency. I have known Milo for almost 10 years now, and I have seen him grow as a very talented sales executive that has had a very natural selling style all the way into a leadership and management position in very sales-driven organization. What we're going to hear from Milo is probably going to be very avant-garde, but that is exactly why I invited him to join this interview series. In preparing him, I explained to him that sales executives today are finding that selling is difficult because buyers are constrained and it's difficult to connect with them. He told me, don't worry, let's figure out a way to help them. So stay tuned right now for the sales tip from Milos Kovacevic. Milo, it is great to see you again. I know that we have been tracking each other and knowing each other for almost over 10 years now. So welcome to this blog series. I'd like you to take a moment and introduce yourself, introduce your company, and just tell us a little bit about your profession in sales.
Thank you so much, Jen, for having me on your blog. I know it's taken a while to get me here as well, and we haven't managed to come together. I'm very glad to be here with you. A very brief rundown of what's going on in my life at the moment. I'm the co-founder and director of IGH Real Estate. We are a boutique real estate business with, I guess, you could say, two unique differentiators in the way that we do business. One of them is our expertise in online marketing, specifically of property, through having worked in that realm for a long time here in the UAE and internationally. So we have a almost unique ability to find interested and motivated buyers for our seller clients. I am in the property of one of my seller clients right now. Behind me is the kitchen of the iconic Murabba residence on the Palm Jumeirah. The second sort of selling point that we consider is potentially even our stronger one, is that when we attract the interested and motivated buyer, we do not need to know the what, we'd rather know the why. For any property purchase, it's potentially the most personal decision you're ever going to make in your life, and it's motivated by certain factors. Instead of knowing that you, Jennifer, are looking for a 3-bedroom apartment or a 4-bedroom villa, I would rather want to know why the decision has come about for you to purchase that 3 or 4-bedroom villa, because I believe that if I know the why, I can get you the best options and the relevant product for you based on a personal decision rather than an area decision or a price decision.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of experience and insight to get to that sort of selling technique. And I know that I've watching you in the prop tech sector for so many years, moving from, being a sales executive all the way to sales leadership role. I'm sure that has been a culmination of your experience, is not selling on the what, selling on the why. It makes such a massive difference.
I think, thinking before this interview, I really kind of got into what I would summarize my career in advertising as, and I guess it comes down to 2 points. The first one is a very personal point for me, is that I've really helped sort of grow and unlock people's potentials in their career along the way. And the second point is having acquired the ability to translate words into millions of dollars for the organizations where I worked at.
Those are amazing attributes.
I can go a little bit further into the second part, and for the purpose of this blog and this interview, where I believe that in order, and this of course is all mine, in order to be successful in sales, one has to differentiate themselves. It isn't about differentiating techniques or products or any of that, and I'll get into this with you, but It's about differentiating yourself and building a personal brand. When I started off in sales, obviously I got some sales training. It was a very boiler room atmosphere where in my first sales job, ad sales, that we've all seen Mad Men and so on. It's kind of how it worked back then. Um, and I was given this sort of skill set or a suggested skill set by my then management. And I decided to take it and throw it completely out of the window because I didn't feel that it would work in any way, shape, or format. To a degree, the majority of it might have worked, but I came up with an idea, sort of a theory that I've been pushing since then in terms of my own career, and that theory is that I don't feel like in the 15 years I've been slinging ads that I've ever sold anyone a product or a solution. Obviously, my track record at the organizations I've worked at will say something different. But I honestly believe that the only thing I've sold the entire career that I've had is myself.
I am so happy you brought this up, because right now, during these very tough, challenging times, a lot of vendors and suppliers are just neck to neck with their buyers. So they've asked me, what can I do, Jennifer? What can I do to differentiate myself? So please share with our audience, how can one differentiate themselves and sell themselves, as you just said?
Differentiating oneself. I feel that from my experience, what I've seen is people try and differentiate product. And like you say, buyers are inundated with vendors, right? We're all proud of the organizations we work for, and we understand the USPs of the product that we're selling to clients and prospects, right? However, this is us. We're in this industry. We know the jargon. We know the minuscule differences that are between solutions out there available to clients. They don't. They're looking for a solution. They don't need to know the jargon. They don't need to know the ins and outs of your product. They need to know what makes you different. And my example always has been, and anybody that I've coached will forever say that the one sentence that always comes out of my mouth is, if you have a friend, you can sell, right? If you've then convinced that friend to go for a drink with you, you have successfully made a sales transaction.
Agreed.
That's what you've done, right? You have sold someone your personality. They have invested their time, which is more important than money, into who you are, right? So you haven't pitched them a product. You haven't pitched them an agenda. You haven't pitched them absolutely anything. They agreed to see you for the person that you are, right? You're then going to go into that interaction with that person. You're going to actively listen because you care. And so when I say actively listen, when you're sitting with your friend, you genuinely care what your friend has to say. You don't have an agenda that's driven by a target. You're sitting there with a person and having an amazing interaction, right? At the end of that interaction, everybody goes home happy. You feel better for yourself for sharing some information with your friend. Your friend feels better for sharing some information with you, and you've had a lovely afternoon or evening, right? Then you fast forward to the next morning and you go to your business meeting with a prospect or a client. And you go in there and you're an entirely different person. Why?
Good question.
Why on earth would you have this amazingly successful interaction that you had less than 24 hours ago and rob your clients or prospects and yourself of having the exact same interaction with you?
I guess maybe we are scared. And
We
maybe
are.
it's not professional.
Perfect. You know how much I love professional and the status quo, right? It's one of my favorite subjects to speak about. It isn't professional to be friendly to someone. Interesting. Is that really not professional? It's not. This is
So
the
what
difference.
would you say would be like the tactical points in differentiating yourself in a professional situation?
Amazing. Don't be professional. Do not attempt to be professional. Why? Because every other supplier, like we said, there's tiny little nuances between your product and everybody else, right? Not every, 90% of the other suppliers are going in there and attempting to differentiate between the product of their competitors and what they have to offer as a solution. What I'm saying is be a person and be a friend. There's multiple reasons for this, and I can only share my own successes that I've had with this sort of method in the past.
Please do.
One of them is that if you go in there and you're pitching someone something, you've got an agenda that's driven by a target, right? It's about you. And one of my first sales directors was one of the smartest and best salespeople I've ever met in my entire life. Said one thing to me very early on in my career, and that was nobody cares about you.
Correct.
Right? And of course, you will you'll confirm that happily. It's all about the client. But I think if you change your mindset, this is dare to be different, right? Dare to not worry about professionalism to a degree. I changed my mindset and I said, I'm going to, every single meeting that I go into, attempt to make a friend, first and foremost, right? I have my targets. I have my numbers. I know exactly what happens if I don't hit them. However, the theory paid off. The gamble paid off at a later stage. Why? Because when you become someone that's trusted in this person's eyes, and you can build that trust very quickly inside of one meeting, right? By genuinely caring. Don't fake it. Don't ever fake it. Don't ever go into a meeting and be the caring person who's now going to try and do this, that, and the next thing. No. If you change your mindset to genuinely care about every interaction with every human being that you have in life, because why not? Why not add value in someone's life? Why not allow them to add value in yours? We're all just people. Nobody wants to be sold. Nobody wants robots. Us as salespeople hate that the most out of anybody else. We all know when we get that call from a bank or a telecommunications company, and you're as a salesperson, you're kind enough to say, no, thank you. Most people just put the phone down because nobody likes to be sold. The second part of this whole thing is that you're going to get the information, not any information. If you have made a friend, they're going to tell you the info, the root of why they're making a purchasing decision when they're making it, what it means to them, right? I can tell you what it means for my business to purchase a bigger package on an online platform, right? It's going to mean more leads. It's ultimately going to mean more deals. But why? Why am I doing this now? Why have I chosen to invest more money right now at this exact moment? What does it mean to me? Does it mean that I get to hire more people? If I get to hire more people, what does this mean for me? Right, so I've hired more people. Does that free up more of my time? Yeah, it does. Why is it important for me to have more time freed up? Is this why I brought the decision, or is it because I need to make more money? There's a million different tangents, but every decision ultimately that we make at home, we make here, and it's personal. Everything is driven by a personal decision in your entire life. Everything you've ever bought, everything you've ever done, and the reason you're sitting here in front of me has been a personal decision that you've brought for whatever motivation you have for bringing a decision. If you're sitting in front of a prospect or a client and you can get that motivation out of them, you've made a friend. There is no need post that to follow up every 2 weeks. There's no need, because they're going to give your competition a vague answer. They're going to give your competition, we're not buying right now, but stay in touch with us. You are not going to get that answer. You're going to get exactly when that person is buying, because they've told you why they're buying it. They trust you. They've entrusted some information into you. And you're going to know exactly when they're buying. Your follow-up becomes entirely different because you're a friend. You don't have to follow up every 2 weeks with, hi, I'm in your area. I thought I'd drop in for a coffee, right? So like nobody wants that anymore. It's a terrible follow-up technique. If these people have told you because they trust you exactly when they're going to purchase, there's no need for that. Your follow-up becomes different. It becomes, hey, Jennifer, in 2 weeks' time, it becomes a personalized WhatsApp. Hey, Jennifer, why don't we meet up for a coffee or a drink after work on the Wednesday so you can tell me how your daughter's swimming competition went?
Yeah, it sounds almost as though you're saying be different or from everybody else by being authentic, by being a person that is actually thinking about another person. And if maybe you're not authentically a person that cares, maybe you shouldn't be in sales. But what you're saying is just to take it kind of down to like this more intrinsic, deep emotional level.
1,000,000%. Every
Yeah.
decision that people make is emotional and it comes from the inside, right? What I'm saying is that my success in sales over the last 15 years or whatever, in every role that I've had, has come purely from wanting to know more, from genuinely being interested into human beings and why they do things the way that they do things. And then they give you the real grit, the roots of everything. It is an emotional sale. It is very much personality based. But again, it is so basic because you have these interactions every single day with your family, your friends, your relatives, etc. This happens on a day-to-day basis. You don't even think about it. You are successful in sales if you have a friend already. It's already there. Why rob yourself of the opportunity and your prospects of the opportunity to really get to know you? Why, when they decide to buy, right, without you pushing, they will tell you firstly the information when exactly they're going to buy. When they make that decision, who are they going to come to? They're going to come to you, right?
Yes.
And why? Psychologically, are you going to ask for advice from a stranger or a friend?
Right. Right.
Right?
So, I mean, it's also just making yourself available and at the same time making yourself personable. And of course, they're going to come back to you. But that all takes a little bit of self confidence and probably some practice. You mentioned that you have been coaching people to help them differentiate themselves in
Yep.
selling situations. Can you share with our audience maybe somebody that you've coached that's been a little bit scared to differentiate him or herself and how you help them and what happened?
And I have an amazing example of one of my better ones of a young man that worked in sort of like a logistics company, I guess. And that little company was my client for sales coaching. He then approached me from the group coaching sessions to do some one-on-one work with him, and I took him on board for 6 weeks. And we met regularly and we went through pitching and personality and the friend stuff I'm talking about, etc. And emotions and allowing people to, he was a great guy and he was stumbling on his words in meetings. He was trying too much to differentiate the product as opposed to himself. And the one day after we've done coaching for about 3 or 4 weeks, about 3 weeks, I think, he picked up the phone and he called, there was a government tender that was out for a massive contract that his company would never get a seat at the table for. I mean, the company, the organization that he worked for. They didn't have the right credentials, they didn't have the right amount of staff, etc. He somehow managed to get a hold of the procurement manager. He had an entirely different phone call, an entirely different meeting with this person just by trying actively to influence the way that this person felt about him while he was in front of this person, right? In any case, he gets a phone call a week later and he's got himself a seat at the pitch for this tender, which is another 5 companies, all of them massive multinational businesses, and his little 12-man show, which he works in. We worked on his pitch, we worked on what he was going to deliver, sitting in front of a boardroom of all financial people. And again, there was a lot of give and take. I can only suggest. I can't, implement or do. It's up to the person. Except for the very last evening where he came around to me and he showed me his final version of his presentation, and it was charts and figures and numbers and everything that any financial people are going to want to see, right? I said to him, look, you've dared to be different already. This is how you got this meeting, right? You know all of this stuff you've just showed me on the screen behind you, back to back. There is no way you're going to forget any of these statistics. Do you want them to pay attention to you, or do you want them to pay attention to the screen?
Mm.
And he said, I want them, right?
Good question.
And he said, I want them to pay attention to me. And I was like, cool, let's scrap the whole presentation. He was like, no, I've been working on this for like 2 or 3 weeks, etc. It's got all the relevant information. I'm like, you have the relevant information. It's all in your head. You can recite it for me with your eyes closed, fast asleep if you need to. you've got the relevant information. It's how they're going to feel about the information that you're going to deliver to them is what's going to make the difference. I asked him a final question. I said, when is your time slot? This was already sort of getting into late afternoon, early evening. When is your time slot? He said it's at the beginning. It was going to be the first pitch because it was the smallest pitch. They tried to get them out of the way, right? This procurement manager actually he had built a relationship with, kind of did it almost as a favor, not thinking that it would go anywhere because it's such the magnitude of the business, right? I said, please call this guy, try and change the time slot to the last slot. He did. The guy throws in a massive last minute favor, changes the time slot to the other slot. There's 5 slots, each of them an hour. So to get the last one is potentially the worst thing, right? You're going to have a boardroom full of tired, cranky, and bored people. So we took the presentation, we completely scrapped it with emotional imagery, right? Imagery that was meant to evoke emotion whilst he's talking about whatever his solution is going to be to these people, making him more personable. It was all just meant to be different. He told me that when he was in the pitch and he started with these pictures, people kind of looked around at each other because it was entirely different to whatever they'd literally been watching the whole day. And he came to my house a week later and he told me we won the pitch.
Oh. And it was because he dared to be different, as you said.
He didn't call. He came straight to my house with probably the most expensive bottle of whiskey I've ever held in my hands. Because for his business, this was a life-changing deal. If I tell you about the deal, it was a continental distribution, logistics, and people solution for a company the like of H&M. He changed the trajectory of the entire company that had been going for 20 years, plugging away with little contracts, little deals, happy to keep going. This guy dared to be different. He walked in there, he took a massive gamble on what we both agreed on, but we both kind of sat there like, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? He did the gamble. It paid off. He's super successful since. He's opened his own logistics and distribution business, and he's doing very well because every single client he approached from then, he made them his friend, and now he does very, very well with his business. I think if you sum everything that I've set up, we all have really good customer relationships, right? We all have a few clients, just a handful of clients, which we don't need to sell to. They're our best clients. We meet them out on a social level. We don't go to meetings in their offices. We go for coffees, we go for drinks, we go for family barbecues. We know how easy it is to sell to those people because they trust us. So why not initiate every single interaction you have with every single, not client, not prospect, human being, in a way that would line you up to get to that level with every single person you're dealing with in your life, not just in business. Because when you make friends, you stop selling. You don't have to do anything from that point onwards. People will come to you for advice. People will come to you for guidance, and people will buy whatever it is that you're selling because it's your friend.
Milo, I am just blown away by how many golden nuggets are in this interview. And I know during these difficult times what we perceive to be difficult times, that this sort of advice is going to be helping a lot of sales executives that have been asking me this exact question. And I think the biggest mistake that they've made, and just to use your words, really has been trying to differentiate the product versus differentiating themselves. But I've been working with organizations that they can't really differentiate their product that much. Maybe they have one little, as you said, variation. So they feel very frustrated. So I'm very excited about you publishing this interview as soon as possible, because I'm going to be like, this is for you guys. Take note. And actually, it's not as hard as you think. But I think that there is a daring aspect to it, is make an experiment about it and see how it works out. And your coachee, I mean, he took a big gamble, but the reward seems like it was tremendous. So I also would like to end this interview and put out from the both of us, from Milo and I, to say, give it a try. Give it a try on one of your least risky sales meetings. Do something completely different. Be yourself, make friends. Of course, everyone's trying to make friends, but be authentic about it. And please leave us some comments below on your experience so we can hear. And if it turned out to be just horrible, we'll write that too. And if it turned out to be something really great, had a great, positive, measurable business outcome, let us know too. And on that note, Milo, thank you so much. And yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Jennifer. I absolutely love you for the opportunity. And we'll speak soon. And I hope this helps one person changes their lives because of this. I've done my job successfully here. But thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for viewing this interview. If anything that Milo and I spoke about today resonated with you, please leave us some comments below and let us know your thoughts. Or if you just like this interview, give us a like or subscribe to this YouTube channel. Stay strong and happy selling.